Hey everyone. All right, so we are now 29 weeks. So I probably sound a little bit different than usual, maybe. Today, it's been an interesting week. Everything is still going really well, as I say every time. But we went to the active birth childbirth class on Thursday, and they had a few different things that they did. They did acupressure and had a lady that came in and spoke about that, which was awesome. Definitely something we'll use during labour. I think Brendan has now realised how busy he's going to be during, because he'll be the one that has to do all the points. But yeah, that was really interesting because we heard a lot about the different points on the body that can help, like with the let down and that sort of thing. So bringing baby like further down and then helping them to come out, loosening the cervix, all that sort of stuff. So really good tools, and whether you believe in it or not, like it's going to feel really nice as well to just have that pressure taken off. So it's definitely something that we will try. And also some of the points she discussed also help with like the let down reflex for breastfeeding and stuff like that too. So really handy points to know if you have any troubles with breastfeeding and stuff. I am not an expert on it, but if anyone has any questions and they're curious, then just send me a message and I can give you some of the information that they gave us too. Um, but yeah, so yeah, that was really cool. They had a couple that came in with their baby who had done the course about 6 months ago, and they just talked about their birth, which was really nice. A home birth, which really resonated with us, obviously. Really nice to hear this week and last week positive birth stories from like both from home births too. So that was really nice because it is still a very minority like group of people that do it in New Zealand. But yeah, so both really positive stories. But the bit that got me, and why I am feeling how I do right now. So they talked a little bit about fears during their birth story, and it's been something that I've thought about a lot during pregnancy as well. To obviously try and break down anything that we might have on our minds, both me and Brendan, that could potentially slow us down or hold us back. And I couldn't think of anything, and neither could Brendan. His main concern was that of just making sure that I was okay and that baby was okay during the labour, which I can totally understand because although it is a natural thing and that our bodies are designed to do it, it's new territory for both of us. And for Brendan and I, we like to have control, and we do over most things. But this is something that we won't, and also we don't have the expertise to be able to take it in our hands and make the calls that need to be made if something was to go wrong. But anyway, so that was all fine. Then there was a lady that spoke. I'm going to leave her name for this at this point, but she was a midwife, and she works in New Plymouth. Comes from overseas originally, and anyway, she came in and she was talking to us about like what her job is and all that sort of stuff, which was interesting. But it was her perspective, her mindset, her philosophy, her beliefs, all that sort of stuff. Although she didn't directly say like this is what I believe and blah blah blah, it really came across and spoke to both me and Brendan when we were sitting there listening in that group of people, um, exactly how she was and how she believed in birth and the way that her midwife appointments would kind of go, and without me trying to like I'm definitely not like trying to bag anybody or make out like anybody is not as good or anything like that, but in regards to the midwife thing, because of the type of birth that Brendan and I are wanting, we're not just popping out a baby, or we're not just shooting up to the hospital getting an epidural and slamming getting her out, so although in a sense our birth is going to be like we are not asking for much, we just want to be able to have her naturally and that sort of thing. The support aspect is going to be huge. Being at home, not having much of that, obviously we've read as much as we can, but not having that expertise ourselves or that experience, it kind of scared me a little bit because in that moment I realised that she's what we need at our birth. We've talked so much between the two of us about trying to like manage the people that are going to be there when we like give birth as well, making sure that that environment is exactly how we want it and need it to be for her to come out safely without me being stressed or her being stressed or anything like that. The lights, the atmosphere, the aromatherapy, all that sort of stuff, everything. So for us to get to that point and see that lady and obviously not be able to say anything because we're talking, like the lady's talking in a class, I, at the end of the class, said to Brendan, I was like, I need to go and speak to her, and I'd written down a couple of questions that I had for her and that sort of thing. And Brennan said to me afterwards when we left that he didn't know what I was going to ask her, but he knew that it was a good thing because he had been touched by what she had said as well, and had that same realization that she's the sort of person that we need at our birth for. Not so much that we need the support to get through it because we're hoping to be that for each other, but the way that I felt just hearing her talk and the way that Brennan felt as well is that she was someone that we would lean on to have a little bit of that support, and would trust her to be able to emotionally guide us. But then also with the experience she had with home births, having her births at home, and all the experience she'd had and just the way she sees it, we felt an immediate trust with her, which is so unlike us, but an immediate trust that if something was to go wrong and she told us, that it would really be wrong, like not that the book has told her that it's been 5 minutes longer than I was meant to be labouring for without my waters breaking, or, or whatever it might be. Or, there might be a little bit of meconium in the, come out in the water or whatever. So a little bit of baby's first poo. I feel, like that, they are some of the things where a midwife would be like, cool, yeah, you're straight to the hospital right now, we've got to transfer you, because that is the line. There's a clear line of, what you can and can't do, and just keeping mum safe and baby safe, all that sort of stuff, which I totally get. But obviously, with this lady that was at the class, she had that mindset of definitely having to try and keep everybody safe, but the experience that she had, she didn't really, she knew the line was there and she was happy with that, but she kind of sounded like, for example, with the meconium, that was a big thing for us because we just talked to our midwife about the meconium, and it basically sounded like an immediate transfer, even if it was just a small amount. Whereas when we were talking to this lady, I asked her that question and she said that it would very much depend on the situation, how far along you were. If you're 41, 42 weeks, then it may just be because baby's matured and they're ready to do all those things, so it wouldn't be a concern. But also, she said the amount and all that sort of stuff would definitely come into it. But it doesn't require, in her mind, all the time, it doesn't always require a transfer and then being monitored constantly on a monitor. And she was even happy with putting the monitor on for 20 minutes, making sure the heart rate was fine, and then if it was, taking it off, which our midwife that we have currently wasn't. Again, definitely nothing wrong with that approach. It's just, I think that the beliefs aligned with this lady a little bit more. To my amazement, I actually ended up crying in front of this lady and obviously and Brennan as well, because I was so overwhelmed with the fact that we are due in 11 weeks. She could come in 7 or 8 weeks if she wants, and she could be even later than that, but that we are not really in line with where I would like us to be and where Brennan would like us to be with our carer. Definitely nothing wrong with who we have at the moment. She'd be great if we were planning just going into the hospital and doing that sort of stuff, but or maybe even a home birth for some other woman, and couples. But for us, this lady really spoke massively to us. And so brought up my one fear, which is that we have organised every other aspect of our birth and how we're going to control that or look after that environment as much as we can. Totally open to lots of these different things might not work out because baby is going to do what she wants to do, and we're totally open to it, and if we have to go to the hospital, we will be there. But I feel like the one thing we didn't put much thought into, or we believed that we could do it all ourselves, and that it wasn't really that much of a priority who was there with us. They were just to get the baby up, check her weight, make sure she was fine, and that was it. But really, I suppose it is trying to find that person that if something is to go wrong, we can leave that trust in, because I'm not going to be in a situation really to be able to do much about that, and I don't want anything taken out of my hands or out of Brendan's hands, or things that we didn't want to happen purely based on putting that trust in someone else when it might not really be necessary just yet. But we also don't want to turn around and tell our carer, no, we don't want to do that, because if something goes wrong, it does go wrong, then obviously we would never be able to live with that. So it's quite a hard one. It got me a little bit emotional this morning because I rang the lady who we had seen and asked if she could take us on. And obviously we're so close to having her that she is fully booked. But she, after talking to her and trying to persuade her almost, she is going to talk to her other midwife and see if they're happy to take us on. And so now it's just a waiting game. She said hopefully by the end of the week that we should know. But yeah, so I'm a little bit nervous about that because up until this point I was kind of happy and confident with everything, and I still definitely am. But depending on her answer, if she says no, then we've got to seriously think about what we do. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at with everything. But everything's really good. Baby's going really well. She's growing, she's kicking, she's doing all the stuff she should be. Yeah, we did my weight again the other day, and 7.5 kilos up from the start, which is cool. I'm happy with that. The normal range by now, if you're started at a good weight, is about 8.5 kilos, so a little bit below that, but I think everything's kind of going perfectly, and I just kind of eat instinctively, still eating well, still exercising 3 or 4 times a week. But yeah, we're off to Thailand this week, which I can't wait for. I'm really hoping we hear from the midwife by then, because it will be a really big relief and a really good start to our holiday too. But yeah, obviously we'll see how all that pans out. Also, I didn't even remember because we've been so focused on this, but I also went and had an osteo appointment this week as well, which was really, really good. So I'm so glad I went. It was by a recommendation of a friend of mine who just had a baby as well and had an osteo during her pregnancy. And yeah, it was really good. So she did like a visual assessment of me standing and sitting, and she could see quite a severe twist in my pelvis, and also on the right hand side quite rigid and stuck, whereas the left hand side seemed a little bit more kind of pliable. And obviously when you're in labour, those two kind of parts of your pelvis need to be able to separate and spread so baby can get down freely. Otherwise it's going to be a very tight space, which is going to cause a lot of pain for me and cause a lot of issues for her as well. So we want as much space as possible so she hasn't got that much pressure on her. So that was really good. So I spent a whole hour with her. We talked about my history and surgeries over, everything across the whole body to try and work out where the issues may be coming from. She definitely did isolate it to being my right-hand side, my pelvis, in my back and my shoulder blade, which I kind of already knew about, and then through my rib cage on the same side. So she managed to loosen up my pelvis and get that in line, which was really positive. But then the other 2 sites, she said, have been obviously been a lot longer that they've been there, so they're going to take a bit more work. But yeah, so we're going to go to Thailand, but when we get back, obviously it'll be 4 weeks away, but when we get back, I'm going to go and see her, and then I'll see her every 2 weeks until baby's born, just to really try and keep that pelvis in line, keep everything open. But yeah, the day after was so bad, like I was sore as, my hips were sorer than they had been, like before I went and saw her. But yeah, today and yesterday that felt heaps better, so yeah, that was really good. But yeah, so I will leave it there today because it's quite a big one. Yeah, hopefully next time I get to do this talk, it's going to be, for me, it's a big milestone. We'll be at that 30-week mark. We're close. We'll be in Thailand, so I said Brendan's got to take me somewhere for dinner. But hopefully by then I'll also be able to give you guys some exciting news with the midwife. But yeah, nothing that we can't handle, and I'm glad that we have at least had the opportunity to meet this lady and see what we could potentially have. Otherwise, if that was to open up during labour, the feelings that came out and the emotions that came out, then it would have been a whole different story. So yeah, I really do advise any parents to be to sit down and, like, even by yourselves, and then talk about it together once you've realised, but really think about any fears you may have. It's the last thing you want to do, and like especially with us, we're trying to have a positive birth experience and all that sort of stuff, but I think it's super important to have a look at any of those concerns that you may have, so you can look at addressing them now and working through them, rather than them coming up on the day and having to try and work through them then, as well as contractions and anything else that may be going on. Because a lot of women have said in birth stories that I've read and listened to that it has been emotional fears and stuff like that that have actually held their labour up from progressing. Once they've worked through them, they've been able to progress again. So, yeah, definitely something to think about. Birth doesn't have to just be this show up in the hospital and do your thing. You can definitely still have natural birth there as well. It's just the home's going to work better for us, and I feel like we have a little bit more control over intervention and that sort of thing, unless it's actually necessary. But yeah, so yeah, embrace your pregnancy and your journey when you guys get to go through them, because like feels like it's been a long time, but we're so close to the end now, and soon we're going to have her in our arms. And I said to Brendan yesterday, it's such a weird thought that this thing that's been making my tummy grow each week is actually going to be in our arms, and it's going to be a human, and it's going to grow into a person. But yeah, so it's stuff that I'm excited for, that Brennan's excited for, and the little puppy, he's been adapting really well too, so it'll be perfect timing by the time she gets here. Our family unit will all be together, and yeah, it'll be a really good experience. But yeah, so I'll leave it there for now, and I'll see you guys at 30 weeks.